on the Mason-Robertson County line. I'm in my old stomping
There
grounds
you are.
with Jennifer Gleason. You know what? We're in a little bit of heaven here. We're meeting some cool people on this show, and you're one of them.
Thank you.
Now look what I've been wanting to do for the longest time. Hominy, 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 hominy.
Hominy, 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 hominy.
Now that is truly old-fashioned stuff. When I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. It was a treat when we go to somebody else's farm and we'd have this hominy. I was fascinated with the process and wanted to do that for years and years and years. And we started to get into contact about a year ago, and through our friend Sarah, Taylor Knob, and we started finding out all these cool things you're doing right here. Let's go ahead and back up.
Okay.
Let's talk about the corn that starts this whole process.
So it's called Hickory King Corn, but it's really tall corn that is open pollinated, non-GMO, heirloom variety. It's been grown around here for at least 300 years.
Wow.
And it's all-purpose corn. It's very long ear, and it's 8-row, meaning there's 8 kernels around the cob. So it's a real skinny cob. You might have noticed that when we were shelling it.
Now this may be a good time to address the fact that if you hear a banging in the background, it's only gale force winds.
That's right.
That's why we're in here.
That's right, and we can't stop it. It's that exhaust fan blowing. So I love this corn because it's good for eating as a sweet corn in the milk stage, or you let it dry on the plant like this has done, and then you can grind it in a cornmeal and grits. You can make hominy.
You know, as I look at that, it is an ancient looking corn.
Isn't it?
It looks like it's got some history there.
So I think it's even more than 300 years, because when I have traveled and brought this corn when I'm selling my stuff, it's so wonderful when people come up and they'll pick up that corn and they'll say, is that Hickory King? You know, because it's like a person's face. You can recognize what the variety is. So I think it's much older than what I know that it is.
Now, in a minute, we're going to go step-by-step process. I wanted to do this years ago, and I'm so glad we found you.
Me
but
too.
you know, you have where we did it today, but you have a commercial kitchen as well, where you sell all these things. Now, today you just showed us step-by-step right here. Even the old wood stove is cool. You're doing this with actual wood from right here.
Yeah.
So, I tell you what, before we grab lunch, let's go ahead and talk about the process step-by-step. Where do you start this?
So we start with the whole kernel, the whole corn on the cob. It's dry. So we take the corn on the cob, we go to the old-fashioned hand sheller, we turn the sheller to shell the corn.
Someone has had date 1902 on it.
Yeah, and they still sell them today because they have not improved on that technology. Isn't that incredible?
That is
For
amazing.
a hand-turned machine, that is still, you can buy them new. And then we winnow it, which means you pour the corn from a height of maybe 4 feet from one basket into another, and a breeze will blow off the chaff. If it's not a breezy day, we put a box fan on and blow it. So now we've got the whole kernel corn, and we are ready to make the lime water.
Lime water, not lime.
Now you could make it with lye. You can make it with lye or slaked lime or ashes.
Gotcha.
You can use any of those 3 things as the base liquid to make your hominy. We use calcium hydrate or slaked lime or pickling lime. That's all the same stuff. The water is brought to a simmer, and then you sprinkle the powdered lime on top. On the wood stove. So our recipe is 3.5 gallons of water, filtered water, to 1.5 cups of slaked lime, which is a white fine powder. It looks like talc, only whiter. Bring that again to a simmer, and then you take it off the stove and sit it away from heat with the lid on for at least 2 hours, and then that calcium hydrate is going to separate out, and you'll have the resulting called lime water. So now it's separated out, and we're going to pour off the clear liquid. You don't have to do that, but it makes a cleaner hominy. It's easier at the rinse stage. Right. And now that lime water is ready to add your 6 pounds of whole kernel corn to the lime water. Now we bring that, put that back on the stove, and we bring that up to a boil, and then we'll turn the stove all the way down, and we'll let it simmer overnight.
That's kind of a forgotten art, just how to work the stove.
Yes, I'll make sure there's enough wood in the fire, turn it down, and then the next morning we come and it looks like what we saw in the pot, the finished thing. So then now it's swelled up to 3 times its size, and the water is kind of yellowish, and now we want to rinse off all that coating. So I didn't tell you what's happening. So the reason you're using a base liquid is because the corn, each kernel has a coating, and it's clear and it's hard. It's almost like a shellac. So the base material in the water will dissolve that. And that then allows the grain inside to swell up and soak up that water and the heat too.
Therein lies the story, which you told me off camera a little while ago, when times were tough
Yes.
in this part of the country during the Depression,
Yes.
and other parts.
Anywhere they were eating mainly corn. So by soaking this corn, you are removing that coating that actually makes the corn less digestible. So by taking that coating off, the B vitamins in the corn become available to you, which they are not if we just grind this up into cornmeal and corn and grits. But by doing this, your body can absorb the B vitamins. And if you don't do that, when people were eating this 3 times, 4 times a day, they got pellagra. And it was a disease that you would see among people was a vitamin deficiency. Like scurvy is a vitamin deficiency for vitamin C. It's that type of a illness.
And
So-
the Native Americans had it figured out a long time
the Native
ago.
peoples in South America and Mexico and Native peoples in America, they knew that if you use ashes, and if you ask those people, and if you go way, way, way back, you say, how do they know that? People are always asking, how do people know things? Well, you know, Native peoples are way more in touch with everything, and they would tell you, the corn told us. This is
We're
what
so far away from nature.
Yes.
They were one with
they were
that.
one with nature, and nature continues to speak to us.
So we've got this thing down to an edible, wonderful. If you've never had it, what would you compare it to?
Well, it's not a really appetizing comparison, but I think it tastes like wet, buttery popcorn. You know, it's kind of, and that might sound bad, but if you think of cereal, you know, it starts out crunchy, and then as the milk goes through, it gets soggier and soggier. I like all phases of that.
That's true.
So, and then of course when you saute it in butter, like we've done.
And that's what you've done.
Yeah, where I've never really sauteed it, and now it's got like little crunchy edges, which is like, okay, yeah, now I see why that's why people eat it that way.
You must have been watching our show, because we like butter.
I
almost everything.
I like butter. In fact,
So
you see, I get Amish butter right from
There you
the.
go. You got a little ham in there.
I did
a little
country
butter.
ham from our neighbors down the road.
If you came to visit this spot, what might you expect to find? What else do you sell that's local and
Well,
what do
we
you guys
sell
do?
15 kinds of fruit jam, and all the fruit's locally grown.
Local.
And all we use is local fruit and organic sugar. We don't use pectin or citric acid, only like your grandma used to make before pectin was available. And pectin's not bad. It's bad for you. It's just a thickener that you don't need. And usually when you use pectin, you use twice as much sugar. So that means your jam is going to be way more sugar and less fruit. Our jams are twice as much fruit and half as much sugar as your traditional recipe on a box of Certo. 15 kinds. Some of them are unusual. Gooseberries we grow. We grow rhubarb. We grow black currants. So in addition to the jam, we make 4 kinds of coarse-grained mustard. We start with whole organic mustard seed and grind it up fresh. Then we make 2 kinds of pickled vegetables, pickled asparagus and pickled okra, and we grow the asparagus and okra here.
Wow.
Then we have, with the corn, in addition to the hominy, we have cornmeal and grits. Then we have
You grind that right here.
right here in that small mill. One more thing, which is our biggest thing that we make, is soap. We make 1,500 bars at a time in this tank, and we make 10 to 13,000 bars of soap a year.
Wow. Now, all this talk about food has made me hungry. What's the chances of us chowing down?
It's all ready. It's warm and ready to go.
Let's eat.
Okay.
Now, looky right here. That's a local plate.
You got
Right
it.
more local, you can get that. All right, let's try this. Of course, we already did off camera. Shh,
Yes.
Don't tell me, but I've been picking this up with my fingers.
Yes, this is definitely a finger
And
food.
this is absolutely.
This is the hominy with country ham in it. But I sauteed it with butter, salt and pepper, and country ham.
I could eat a whole plate of that.
Me too.
You don't find hominy everywhere. It's a long, drawn-out process, and you have to have the right stuff to do it. So instead of me trying to make it, I'm just gonna buy it from you.
There you go.
How's that?
Sounds good to me. I got lots of it. Look at all those bags there.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your beautiful place with us.
Welcome.
Showing us around your kitchen. I hope these folks right here will share in your wonderful knowledge of food. You've been doing this a long time.
24 years.
Good to meet you.
Thank you, Tim. It's really fun.
Now let's
Enjoy
eat.
it. Yeah, let's eat, everybody. Okay.